find the personality of the space. And in this case, we look toward traditions, both older and more modern, of art and artists, fabrics, textures, colors that represent the rich Hungarian tradition in design. And whether we're looking in music, Bela Bartok, or pattern work and art of Maholy Nagy from the Bauhaus, or the optic art of Victor Vasarely. These are all sort of inspirations for us, and even the music, and how then we could turn that into colors and patterns, and then we abstracted it so that it had this palette of colors and textures that we thought were unique and sort of emblematic of Hungarian traditions. Certainly wanted to make the space have its own quality, that you walked in here and it wasn't like you walked into any other library, any place else in the world. Like, this could only be here. And so that's why we sort of tapped into history, and then to sort of develop those patterns and colors into textures and patterns and graphics that might be included as wallpaper treatment in the space, or even fabrics, printing onto chair upholstery. And thinking about the music as well, the music of Bela Bartok, or even folk music as well. So that got us to the front door. How do we make that first impression? And thinking that the door itself, how do we make it feel more welcoming? And so that there's two doors. There's an outer door, which is security at nighttime, or when the library is closed. But when it's open, you know that the library is open. And so that the doors, these double doors, are almost like books, book pages that open up. And the first page that opens is a revelation of what's inside. And we also took the opportunity to say, since we understand language instruction is part of the activity, that the sign is in both Hungarian and English, so that it is something that's informative, instructive, to people who are passing by. And we tried to then, with the floor plan, and here's the front entrance, is to make this space more open and flexible and airier, so that when you walked in, the furniture was light and airy and movable, and then the side walls were then sort of richly adapted to display books and art and exhibition. And so it was a mixture of an information, shall I say, rich environment that then sort of made most use of the perimeter. And then we can look at the renderings more closely to show that, but just the idea of making the sort of front space this kind of open, flexible arena, and then a middle area here, which is where the powder room was, and we sort of made it a little bit smaller, but expanded a kitchenette area then for just for a refreshment stand and a little refreshment nook to hang out, and some storage area. And then the back room as a kind of destination, which can be a kind of quiet conference room or other kind of community meeting room as available, but all very visible. As soon as you walk in, the idea is that you can see everything. And then the idea of how this can adapt then for events, because we created a screen on one wall here, then for showcasing films or any kinds of presentations, the same furniture that's rearranged, so that this sort of community den is then sort of, with flexible furniture, then becomes a kind of hospitality center. And this is just showing some of the sort of architectural elements that we went to kind of update the space with the construction, but basically just utilizing what was already there. So one of the things that we did is the existing ceiling, we just opened up the ceiling to reveal the existing structure, and then cladding it in wood to make it feel more open and airy. But that's why I sort of then go back to the renderings here. So when you walk in, the first thing you see is that, look, there's a lot of activities, and there's a lot of components to look at and partake, whether it's books on display with face out with magazines, or here's where the screen is located. But the idea that it feels more welcoming. It doesn't feel like a formal, stiff place, but something that's flexible. And one of the aspects that we try to do normally with spaces and any event is, how do we make them feel welcoming and feel that if you're there, you belong there, that it doesn't feel, you don't feel that, oh, I can only, it's too precious, or somehow I can't partake of it in a kind of relaxed way. So it has a relaxed aspect to it. And the other thing we do is make it feel energetic. And the nice thing about being a small space is that it can have a lot of energy, but what we try to do is put a lot of visual activity in it. So between the books and the exhibitions, that every surface then is some kind of information, and the kinds of furniture, that the idea is that when you walk in, you see people. Now, in this post-COVID environment, okay, what is it going to be like in the meantime in terms of social distancing? And you can't necessarily have this dense or so many people always at once. But doesn't mean the space shouldn't feel energetic, even for one or two people, and if you stagger hours. But I think as things change, the energy of the space can then be the energy reflected by the energy of the people who come in. And this is a view looking back towards the main entrance again, but again to show the flexibility and the adaptability of the space for books and displays. And there's a little corner on one side for like a children's area, but also the kind of coziness that we took the sort of intrinsic character of the space. The ceiling is low, but so it also has a character, it has a personality of intimacy. And intimacy has also that aspect of welcoming. So we try to actually take the children's area and scale it down even further to make it feel more intimate and flexible and cozy. And in the middle area is a kind of little social, center. So if you were on a train or something, it's almost like the cafe car on the train. And in this case, with a little potential bar area and refreshment area for events, and a place for people to gather, informally as well. And so that's the idea. Wherever you are in the library, it's a place to just hang out with people and interchange ideas. And then this is a view of the back area, which then sort of repurposes the existing historic and sort of traditional shelving and brings it into the back area as well, for some of the rare book collections, for example. Sort of a general look and feel of the entire facility. So I hope that helps you to understand what we were trying to do.